History is full of stories so strange, they seem more suited for fiction than fact. Today, we delve into 10 of the most bizarre events from our past. From unexplained phenomena to peculiar conflicts, these tales remind us of history's unpredictability. In this journey, we'll uncover the secrets behind some of the most mysterious artifacts ever found. We'll explore the lives of historical figures who made decisions that defy logic. And we'll witness events that left even the most seasoned historians scratching their heads. Prepare to be amazed, puzzled, and intrigued as we unravel these bizarre stories from history. In the summer of 1518, Strasbourg experienced a strange epidemic. Frau Troffea began dancing uncontrollably in the streets. Soon dozens joined, and within days hundreds were dancing frenziedly. The dancers showed no signs of exhaustion or distress, continuing until they collapsed. Some even died from the strain. Authorities, desperate for a solution, initially encouraged more dancing, believing it would help. Possible explanations include ergot poisoning, causing hallucinations and convulsions, or mass hysteria, triggered by the social stress of the time. Strasbourg was suffering from famine and disease, potentially fueling this collective panic. Some historians suggest that religious fervor and superstitions may have played a role, as people believed they were cursed or possessed. Medical practices of the time were rudimentary, and doctors were baffled by the phenomenon. The epidemic eventually ended after weeks. The city slowly returned to normal, but the mystery of the dancing plague remains a curious chapter in history. In 1932, Western Australia faced an unexpected enemy: emus. The birds, numbering around 20,000, descended on farmland, destroying crops and causing havoc. Farmers, already struggling with the Great Depression, were desperate to protect their livelihoods. The government deployed soldiers, led by Major GPW Meredith, to cull the emus. Armed with machine guns, they found the emus surprisingly agile and difficult to hit. The birds scattered and evaded most attempts. The soldiers' efforts proved largely ineffective. The war ended with the emus prevailing. The event became a humorous episode in Australian history, illustrating the challenges of dealing with unexpected wildlife invasions. In the aftermath, the government provided more support to farmers, and the emu population was eventually controlled through other means. Today, the Great Emu War remains a fascinating and quirky chapter in the annals of history. In 17th century France, the affair of the poisons scandal rocked Louis XIV's court. Prominent figures were implicated in a deadly conspiracy involving poisons and occult practices. Catherine Monvoisin, a fortune-teller, catered to the elite, including Louis XIV's mistress, Madame de Montespan. Nobles sought poisons and magical services to eliminate rivals or secure favor. The investigation revealed widespread corruption. The trial exposed the depth of the conspiracy, leading to numerous arrests and executions, including Monvoisin. The scandal led to a crackdown on poison use and occult practices, highlighting the dark side of court life. Catherine Monvoisin, also known as La Voisin, was a central figure in the scandal. She provided poisons and conducted black masses for her clients. Madame de Montespan, the king's mistress, was deeply involved, seeking to maintain her influence over Louis XIV through any means necessary. The affair of the poisons had a profound impact on French society, causing widespread fear and leading to stricter regulations on the use of poisons. The scandal ultimately led to significant changes in the legal system and a heightened awareness of the dangers of occult practices. On October 17, 1814, London was hit by an unusual disaster, the Great Beer Flood. A massive vat at the Meur and Company brewery burst, flooding the streets with 2.3 million gallons of beer. The vat, containing porter, had been under immense pressure due to a combination of faulty construction and poor maintenance. The flood caused significant damage, knocking down buildings and creating a sticky mess. The molasses-like beer caused 21 deaths and over 150 injuries. Cleanup was a massive effort due to the sheer volume and stickiness of the beer. The disaster led to legal action against the brewery and remains a curious episode in London's history, illustrating the dangers of industrial negligence. The incident was widely reported in the newspapers of the time, sparking debates about industrial safety and regulations. In the aftermath, breweries across London and beyond began to implement stricter safety measures to prevent such disasters from happening again. The War of Jenkins Ear from 1739 to 1748 began with an unusual incident. Captain Robert Jenkins presented his severed ear to the British Parliament, claiming it was cut off by Spanish coastguards. The dramatic presentation stirred public outrage, leading to a war between Britain and Spain. The conflict was part of broader colonial rivalries, with Britain and Spain vying for control over lucrative trade routes and territories in the Caribbean and beyond. Key battles included the Battle of Portobello in 1739, where British forces captured the Spanish port, and the Battle of Cartagena de Indias in 1741, a major Spanish victory. Though the war ended inconclusively with the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle in 1748, it highlights how small events can escalate into significant conflicts, driven by political and public sentiment. Among history's bizarre episodes is the Cadaver Synod of 897 AD. Pope Stephen VI put the corpse of his predecessor, Pope Formosus, on trial. The body was propped up in court and accused of crimes. The trial was a grim spectacle. Formosus was found guilty, his body stripped and thrown into the Tiber River. The macabre event reflected the deep political intrigue of the time. The scandal led to Stephen VI's imprisonment and death. The Cadaver Synod remains a striking example of the extremes of medieval politics and revenge. The trial was not just a personal vendetta, but also a reflection of the intense power struggles within the Church. Pope Stephen VI sought to invalidate Formosus's papacy and his decisions, which had significant religious implications. The event highlighted the conflict between different political factions vying for control over the papacy. It also underscored the fragile relationship between the Church and the state during this tumultuous period. The Cadaver Synod is a stark reminder of how far political and religious leaders would go to assert their dominance. China's Taiping Rebellion from 1850 to 1864 was led by Hong Xiuquan, who claimed to be Jesus Christ's younger brother. His movement sought to overthrow the Qing dynasty and establish the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom. The Taiping forces captured significant territories, including Nanjing, and implemented radical reforms. However, internal discord and Qing resistance, bolstered by Western powers, eventually crushed the rebellion. The Taiping Rebellion resulted in immense loss of life, estimated between 20 to 30 million, making it one of the deadliest conflicts in history. The rebellion was fueled by widespread poverty, corruption, and dissatisfaction with the Qing dynasty. Key figures included Yang Xiuqing, the East King, and Shi Dakai, the Wing King, who played crucial roles in the movement. The Taiping Heavenly Kingdom introduced radical social reforms such as land redistribution and gender equality. The rebellion significantly weakened the Qing dynasty, leading to further internal strife and eventual foreign intervention in China. On January 15, 1919, Boston was struck by an unusual and tragic disaster that became known as the Great Molasses Flood. A massive tank filled with over 2.3 million gallons of molasses ruptured, sending a wave of sticky syrup through the streets of the North End. The tank, located at the Purity Distilling Company, was designed to store molasses for the production of industrial alcohol. On that fateful day, the tank burst under pressure, releasing a torrent of molasses that traveled at an astonishing speed of 35 miles per hour. The flood swept through streets, knocking down buildings and creating a scene of chaos and destruction. The flood caused significant damage, destroying homes and businesses. The sticky molasses proved nearly impossible to clean, leading to a massive cleanup effort that involved both professional teams and local volunteers. The disaster resulted in 21 deaths and over 150 injuries, many caused by the sheer force of the flood or by drowning in the viscous syrup. The aftermath of the flood led to a series of lawsuits against the Purity Distilling Company, which was found liable for the disaster. The Great Molasses Flood became a notable example of industrial negligence and remains a curious and tragic chapter in Boston's history. The phantom time hypothesis proposed by Herbert Illig suggests that approximately 300 years of history, from 614 to 911 AD, were invented. According to Illig, this phantom time was created by Otto III, Pope Sylvester II, and Constantine VII. Illig's theory argues that historical artifacts and records from this period were fabricated. Illig based his hypothesis on perceived discrepancies in the Julian and Gregorian calendars, as well as inconsistencies in astronomical observations. Despite its provocative nature, the hypothesis lacks support from historians and scholars who cite substantial evidence for the authenticity of this historical period. Critics argue that carbon dating, dendrochronology, and other scientific methods provide strong evidence against the hypothesis. While discredited by experts, the phantom time hypothesis highlights the fascination with hidden truths and historical anomalies. From the dancing plague of Strasbourg to the Great Beer Flood and the Cadaver Synod, history offers a tapestry of peculiar and fascinating events. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history's most peculiar moments. If you enjoyed these stories and want to explore more fascinating aspects of history, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for future documentaries.